You're here now, rising star of the MLB. It seems like anytime you go on any of those websites, your name is on the front page. But if you could kind of walk me back to where it all started, how did you know that baseball was going to be something that was going to play a role in your life?
Yeah, my parents kind of signed me up for this little sports camp, and it was like, baseball, soccer, basketball, all those things. And from their account, I don't really remember much of it, but basketball and soccer didn't really hold my attention. I was kind of just doing whatever by myself. But then baseball, I guess, kind of stuck with me, and then enrolled me in T-ball, and I've loved it ever since.
That's awesome. You mentioned your parents there and their influence. So walk me through maybe the family life, home life, and your background, because obviously I'm Filipino. I know you're also a member of the API community. So walk me through kind of how maybe that played a role in your family life.
Yeah, I think my family was a little different kind of from the patriarchal norm. My dad was kind of the chill one that I could always go to for a little reprieve, but I remember kind of in school, my dad would pick me up from school. I get to play some video games, and when my mom came home, it was strict business, all right to homework, no games. And I think that was, growing up, it was kind of hard dealing with that because she was really tough on me. But as I grew up, I started understanding, like, okay, she's tough on me for a reason. And then once I got to 18 and went off to college, she kind of dropped the whole act and was just the most loving mother you could be.
I was going to say that seems very similar to my experience, too. I remember having spelling tests in first grade, and it would be a 98, and it's, well, what happened to the other 2 points?
Yeah, not good enough.
Yeah. Absolutely. Do you think having kind of that expectation to perform so highly and to keep grinding, did that shape kind of the trajectory of your career and maybe the success you're seeing in baseball?
I think so. And again, I think growing up, I didn't see it in the moment. I just was like, why is she being so mean to me? Why is this so hard? Like, I can never please her. But then, like, when she kind of let me go and let me go off my own, it was like, okay, I understand. There was a reason behind it. She'd always strive for excellence, always strive for the top. And yeah, I owe a lot to their way of parenting.
Yeah, I feel like in my household too, it was like, if you're going to try something and you're not the best, then why would you do it?
Why do it at all? Yeah.
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 I'm sure she's very proud of you now.
I love that little lady.
Your mom, she was Japanese American, and your dad's Chinese American.
Yes.
Did you have like those cultural influences aside from maybe like the parenting dynamic and relationships? Were any of those cultural influences in your home or life at all, or not so much?
I would say not so much growing up. I remember kind of asking my dad, like, teach me some Chinese, and he'd always be like, you don't need to know it, like, don't worry about it. Kind of same thing with Japanese. I always kind of wanted to dive in that culture, but it was like, you don't need to know this, kind of just, in a way, like, hide your Asianness in a way, You want to kind of be American, look as American, because my dad growing up, he'd always kind of be like, he'd be looked at for being Chinese and being kind of first generation from Chinatown. So I think his way to impart that was, don't look Asian on the outside, be as American as you can be. And so growing up, I definitely didn't have those kind of cultural experiences that I think a lot of people had growing up.
Is that something looking back that you wish you had, or?
Yeah, I mean, I understand where they're coming from, so I really do wish I had it, but I've kind of started diving into it this last year or two. So it came a little later, but it's been exciting so far, kind of learning my past.
Yeah, I mean, what does that mean to you now? You clearly have a spotlight, you have a platform if you want it, if you choose to use it, for being part of this community. Like, what does that mean for you?
Yeah, it means a lot. I think it's a cool way to kind of show that, like, it's kind of cool to be Asian. I think a lot of times it was like, yeah, I was made fun of for being Asian growing up, in a lot of baseball teams, and you kind of have to roll with it because you don't want to be seen as, like, overly sensitive. But I think it's really cool to be Asian, kind of drawing from those cultures.
You mentioned, on teams and stuff, maybe you were bullied or given a hard time for it. Did you find that in those environments, were you often like the only Asian kid there, or were there other Asian kids on the teams too who were going through that? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. I was usually the only Asian kid, and when there was another one, for some reason there wasn't that really like solidarity or like brotherhood. It was kind of like just kind of indifference. And I actually remember this one isolated event where this kid struck out and he like starts belittling himself. He's like, oh, like I guess I couldn't see that ball, and it's like, kind of have some pride there with it, like I think it's kind of, I mean, he was obviously trying to get some laughs, trying to be accepted into the group, but I remember thinking that, I'm like, that's not the way to treat it in that situation. So yeah, but usually I was always the one Asian on the team.
And what do you hope when maybe, other kids who love baseball, but maybe other little Asian kids who love baseball are watching you? What do you hope that being up there on the Jumbotron or at home in the living room is kind of giving them watching?
Yeah, I think I just want to be someone they can look at and be like, oh, there's a guy that looks like me playing baseball. Because I remember growing up, I didn't really have that kind of person to look up to, and I think that had a lot of confidence issues for me growing up. So kind of having some kids just kind of see that somebody like them is doing the same thing. Hopefully that can inspire them and build that passion and keep going.